ladies and gentlemen. And you're all very welcome to the first ever questions and answers format session by CFAIreland. CFAIreland has been, I suppose, reaching out to more than its narrow membership in recent times with events, and it's very, very gratifying tonight to be able to see such a fantastic turnout of a variety of people here tonight. And I hope that augurs well for the type of debate that we have and the contributions that we get during the night. I just want to explain about the format. It is new, as I say, it's a little experimental, but we have a very good model to follow, which is that of questions and answers by John Bowman. I tried to grow my hair for the part, but it didn't work. The format is, of course, Q&A. There are questions that have been set and will be asked from the audience. When you're doing that, because we're being filmed, and the filming is being done so that CFA Institute can put this up on a webcast in the future. But because you're being filmed, when you have a question to ask, if I could ask you to stand up, take your time. There'll be a mic coming to you as your question is due, or as you want to ask a question. Give your name and say where you're from, and then ask the question, and the camera will have got you by that stage. And then afterwards, when we're finished the whole thing, there'll be a barbecue upstairs on the terrace, and I'll leave you in the hands of the hotel staff to get you up to there. In the meantime, as regards getting a bit of a debate going, we have, first of all, our panellists, and I'll introduce you to those in a moment, and we have you. As I said, there are people who are going to ask questions, but those questioners, as you know, will be given the opportunity to reply to the panel's contributions at the end of the panel contribution. But also, anybody in the audience who wants to chip in on a particular question, as long as we keep it brief in the way they do on questions and answers, anybody in the audience can put up their hand, and if I can catch you, I'll call you in, and we can have a discussion. The panel has been chosen to have something interesting to contribute and hopefully diverse to contribute on this topic, the future of Ireland Inc. That's the broad topic. And we'll be covering questions from the NAMA issue to taxation and so on. And I think it'll be a very interesting set of views that you hear from up here. But I do want to emphasise that we want to hear more than the views that are up on the table here. Can I introduce you to, from my extreme right here, your left, Rossa White, Chief Economist in Davy. Kevin McConnell, I've changed. Charlie Fell, Chief Executive of Sequoia Markets and an Irish Times columnist of great repute. Kevin McConnell, Head of Research in Bloxham. Marco Mayer, Senior Fixed Income Portfolio Manager with Pioneer Investments. And Jerry Moriarty, the Director of Policy with the Irish Association of Pension Funds. And I'm Ronan Smith of Ronan Smith Independent Consulting. And it's my job to keep a little bit of manners on all of this, but I don't think that'll be too hard. So, without any further ado, can we start the ball rolling? And can I call on Sean Brosnan for the first question?
Sean Brosnan, Renaissance Reinsurance. A pretty broad question to begin with. What is the future for the Irish economy? And also, what is the future for the Irish financial services sector?
We all know we've been through very tough times. It's a general question, and can I put it first to Kevin?
Obviously, you start off the easy questions first. I think that obviously we're dealing with a major economic experiment in a global market perspective. Ireland, we're a small open economy, and to a large extent, we're an Anglo-Saxon economy within the Eurozone, so the drivers of our economic growth from an external base are very significant. So the recovery or potential recovery of the US and UK economy plays a huge role in how we look at how the Irish economy will perform over the next number of years. And in particular, obviously the massive stimulus that we've seen in both those economies and across Europe and across the world economy is of critical importance that the recovery or the green shoots that we now see in the last couple of months in those economies continue to gain hold. Ireland is in a very difficult economic condition on a domestic perspective. Obviously, we're highly leveraged into an area of the market whereby, particularly the housing and property markets, which are the most painful and causing the most pain on an international perspective. The positives from Ireland, we are obviously our dependency in the pharmaceutical and technology areas, two areas of the market that have actually been relatively resilient in the economic context. So from that perspective, the green shoots that will come in Ireland will be green shoots that we'll see in the US and UK economies before so. So to a certain extent, we're a victim of circumstance. There is things that we can do to help ourselves, and obviously the one thing that we don't want to do is put ourselves into a situation where our personal taxation policies supersede our corporate attractiveness and corporate taxation attractiveness. I particularly note the likes of Accenture moving their headquarters to Ireland recently, or corporate headquarters, as a sign that Ireland is still potentially a destination for foreign capital and foreign capital investment. So a tough future. I think the Irish financial services industry must and should play a leading role in the recovery, and how it shapes itself in an international context will be critically important. We've seen funds under management fall very significantly over the last 12 months or so, as we have seen globally. Do we market ourselves as the bad bank centre of Europe, or do we market ourselves as a genuine place for future funds for the next number of years? And I think they're going to be big questions that we have to tackle.
Charlie, what would you think?
Well, thanks, Roland. I think the outlook for the Irish economy, as we all know right now, we're deep in a recession. And it comes as no surprise, because the economic model that we've been following has been totally unsustainable, driven by the most unproductive asset of all, investment in housing. But that is not our only problem. Is over the last 5 years, Ireland has incurred or experienced a real or major loss of competitiveness. And we need to get back to our export roots. But to do that, we need to take some harsh action. Harsh remedial action is we need to cut real wages, and that's not going to be easy to do. In fact, they need to be cut by somewhere in the region of 10 to 15%. And that's not going to be easy to do when we're already struggling with deflation. The Irish economy from peak to trough is likely to fall roughly 15%. Throw in deflation on top of that, and you have a serious decline in overall economic wealth. So looking forward is harsh measures have to be taken if we want to attract foreign investment back into Ireland, and we will need to focus on our competitive advantage, which is human capital. As regards the financial services sector,
Charlie, do you think they will be taken?
Well, it's been seen in the private sector is that there already are pay cuts being taken. One of the serious problems is in the public sector, where in the public sector you're talking mean wages, hourly wages are roughly 50% higher in the public sector versus the private sector, which makes absolutely no sense at all. In terms of competitiveness, we also have issues with utility costs, be it electricity, telecommunications, or even waste collection. We're among the highest in Europe. So we need to address these issues, and we need to do it now. I would say even within the private sector, it's all very well that when people have restructurings and pay cuts, etc., but in these situations, leadership needs to come from the top. It's all very well is letting go the receptionist at the bottom, but to play no part in the mistakes that have been made. It needs to happen at the top. And in the financial services sector, there have been so many mistakes made. It's unbelievable. It's one of the primary functions of a bank is asset transformation, and one of those is risk transformation. In other words, is low risk, high liquid deposits transformed into riskier, illiquid loans. And through diversification, it should result in a fairly optimal portfolio. That clearly hasn't happened at all due to the overexposure to housing and property. As we basically went, as Hyman Minsky would have called it, is that we moved from a stable economy to a bonsai economy.
So that's a lot of analysis of our problems and a lot of prescription for what we might need to do, but I don't hear a forecast. Ross, can you give us a forecast?
I'm trying my best. I'm paid to do that, and if we get it 55% right, we'll be happy. I think there are two issues with Ireland. I suppose the first point is, when do we maybe reach a floor? And I'd be a bit more optimistic on that than I would have been certainly a few months ago. And probably the most interesting issue then is what happens afterwards. Do we go like certain countries, particularly the Nordic countries in the early 90s, and close what economists call the output gap quite quickly? So there's lots of spare capacity in the economy. Do we close that quite quickly, or are we set just for years of sluggish growth where the economy sort of bounces along above it? I think on the first point, I do think that we'll reach a floor early next year, and I think